of a Friedland's house. I mentioned this a very big kids something with Chavetz Chaim. I want to say it over properly. The Chavetz Chaim, it's printed in the Chavetz Chaim Sefer Shmuz Haloshen. In the Chelik Sheni, he has some things on the parshas. So he has on Parshas Shlach, talks about the Meraglim. So he says, everyone has this problem to understand what happened to the Meraglim. They were all tzaddikim. They were chosen from each Shevet. They were a top person. And then it didn't take long. They got into such a terrible situation, and they spoke Lashon Hara about Eretz Yisrael, and because of them was that the whole Dor Midbar was nifta. They didn't make it to Eretz Yisrael. Zero on them. So what happened to them? What turned around here in such a short time? These people, you can try to imagine, they must have been on the level of Yeshua and Kalev. I mean, each Shevet had you see who they picked. Yeshua, they picked Kalev. These must have been big tzaddikim. This is beferish. So Chavetz Chaim says this, what went wrong over here? And it says when they came back, even the Sanhedrin, it says Vatisa Kola Eda, when they reported back to the Bnei Yisrael, it says Kola Eda, and Rashi says means the Sanhedrin. So even the Sanhedrin was influenced by their report. And they even went as far as to say, Chazaku Mimenu, it's too difficult for him to capture it. Rashi says it, but I think he brings it back to Rebbeinu. It's too hard for Rebbeinu to capture Eretz Yisrael, which he says he calls it shtus. How did they say such a shtus? In the Lashon he says. So he says like this, that Moshe Rabbeinu instructed him to go check out Eretz Yisrael. Is it a good place? What's going on over there? And they saw great things. They saw the people there are strong. That means it's a healthy place. And the fruit are so big. They saw tremendous milas. But he says what went wrong was it was a little bit of a problem in their emunah, because he said they felt to conquer this kind of a country and these kind of people, we have to be big tzaddikim. And they felt they had just been nichshol and the Chet Egel, and they complained about the mun. They didn't see how is it possible that the Bnei Yisrael are going to be able to capture this country, these people. You need only mamash a big tzaddikim you have to be for this. And they felt we're not roy, Klal Yisrael not roy to have such lisim, to win such a milchama. That's where they went wrong, he says. And he says it's an important thing he wants to bring out of Chavetz Chaim. He says that the Kayav Yetzer Hara, usually Yetzer Hara that tries to bring a gaiva to a person. And here, but he says the Yetzer Hara sometimes brings a shiftless to a person. I mentioned this briefly last night in the Chavetz Chaim, just going over inside the Chavetz Chaim in Shmuezzen. He says that Yetzer Hara has two kinds of koiches. Sometimes he comes tries to get a guy to be about gaiva, but sometimes he gets the guy to feel very low about himself. And he says here the Yetzer Hara came to make the Meraglim feel very low, especially about Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael is on such a low madrega, they're not right to conquer this kind of a country. The reason that it would take to conquer it, he says. And that's what they felt. And when they said that even the Sanhedrin understood their report, because he says they also felt not roy. When you tell and how are we going to be zeichet such Yeshua? And that's what he says. What did they mean when they said it's too hard for Kadosh Baruch Hu? Cover the mental. What do you mean for the Rebbe should do anything? It means to do it for such people. When a Kadosh Baruch Hu, if he has tzaddikim, he takes away the rishayim and he gives the land to the tzaddikim. But if they're not deserving of it, so then he's not going to do it. It's hard for him means because of the situation that we're in. It's hard for him to do it for us. That's Chavetz Chaim says. And he comes out at the end. He says that this really applies to everyone. Everyone, he says, this type of Yetzer Hara. He says that if you come, I've said the Lashon Chavetz Chaim more or less. He says if you come to a person and he asks him, do you believe that there's a big scar for learning Torah? He says, I believe Munah Shlema. That 1 hour of Kairos Ruach and Haba is better than the whole Olam Hazeh. So he says, so why don't you learn Torah? He said. So he says, sometimes a person can answer, it's for big tzaddikim, someone that learns the whole day, but I can't learn the whole day. So for me, it's not talking to me, sort of. I'm not on that level. So he says, I want to read you what he said because it's very important in the message. Chavetz Chaim says, he says, Hashem did not ask a Balabayas to learn the whole day and the whole night. There's Balabayas, there's a Yid could be a Balabayas. Not every Yid is a Yeshiva oil the whole day. He said the Torah wasn't Mechayev Balabayas, so he should learn Torah the whole day. Leis Asik Be'esik Klal, and he shouldn't do any business, shouldn't do any work. Rak, what does a Kaddish Baruch want? Yes, Asik Be'esik, he should do his business. V'yikve itim l'Torah, and he should put aside time for learning. But he says, okay, but Torah says she asik be'emunah. But the business he does, he should be honest, be tarmus or any trickery. And that they ask a person when he comes up in the next world, Nasasa Nasata be'emunah. Kavati from the Torah. You have to have a VC from the Torah. There's the two questions they ask a person. Did you do business honestly? Did you work honestly? And did you learn Torah? You have VC from Torah. And he says, if you think about all mitzvahs, Hashem didn't make it so hard for us. Didn't ask us to do impossible things, he said. He took him like that. So this is, he feels is a lesson that we're supposed to learn from the problem the Meraglim had. Because the way Chavetz Chaim is touching up, again, the Meraglim, is that the Meraglim felt we're not deserving of this. So he says, no, a person shouldn't feel down about himself. A person should feel he could do mitzvahs, his Torah is chashiv, his mitzvahs are chashiv. Don't let the Yeshivas tell you that what you're doing is not enough. You're not kedai to do it, he says. And he says at the very end of the piece, he says, Harav makes a person forget that HaKadosh Baruch Hu oyev chesed, Hashem loves to do chesed, v'roitz l'izchos b'yosef. He wants the Yidden that he created to have schlusim, and he says, and bar b'shvol zeh tshuva, this tshuva, which was created before the world. So even if the person finds that he didn't learn properly or didn't this, he does tshuva, but he goes weiter. He shouldn't let Yitzhara put a person down. That's what the message Chavetz Chaim has from the Meraglim. That's where they went wrong. They felt we don't deserve, we're not good enough. No, we are good enough. Even if we're not tzaddikim gemurim, we are good enough. And the more we do, the better. We shouldn't look down on ourselves. That's what the Chavetz Chaim wants to bring out here, which I think is an important message. And he says he tells us a fact. It comes to us and sometimes puts us down. We're not good, and we did this, we did that, and as I weiter, and he says that's not what Hashem wants. We have to trust in Hashem that He wants the best for us, and as I weiter. Derek Agav, he has over here also, I think maybe you've heard this before, I don't know, that he explains the difference between Yeshua and Kalev. We say two of the Meraglim were tzaddikim, Yeshua and Kalev, but we find that what they did was differently. First, we find by Moshe Rabbeinu only gave a bracha sort of to Yeshua. He added a letter to his name. He didn't help Kalev. He didn't say anything to Kalev. On the other hand, we find that Kalev went to daven Maras Machpelah. Says he went to heaven, and you don't find that Yeshua did that. So Chavetz Chaim's Mahalach, he says that sometimes a person finds himself amongst Rishayim. First, he finds himself amongst people that not behaving right, that don't believe correctly in things. And just, so how do you deal with it? If you're in a situation, let's say a person has a job and he's working together with people that are saying wrong things, they're not acting right. So should he right away protest? Should he say, I don't agree with you on everything they do? Say, I'm not with you, I think differently, I have a different opinion about it? Or can he be quiet and wait for the right moment to maybe be able to make something, to set things straight at a better time, rather than fight with them the whole time? So he says this was the difference between Yeshua and Kalev, Chavetz Chaim says. And Moshe Rabbeinu knew this, Ruach HaKodesh, understood them and how they would deal with it. He said Yeshua was the type that he wouldn't be quiet. The Razan said this is no good, this is no good, he right would say Hashem is going to make it good. So he's going to argue with them at every step of the way. So he said, if that's your approach, you're in danger a little bit. They could, get against you and fight with you. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, Yeshua needs a bracha because he's in trouble. He's going to be against them the whole time.
It's not mashma from the words you the Chatzah.
Why? It was from the Eitzah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I heard this on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it says Kol Yoshiach Me'atzas Murag.
He calls it the Eitzah. The Eitzah means their movement.
Yeah, I hear.
That's
I think the way you're reading from the Chafetz Chaim in the
Shmuezzen. No, Shmuezzen.
Now, HaTorah says I think he says, I haven't seen this in years, that they were going to kill him.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, let's look again exactly the words. But that's why he. But the point was he would be against them from beginning to end. Kolev had a different personality, I guess, a different approach, a different ashkafa, maybe, call it that, whatever you want to call it. And he said, I'm not going to argue with them at every single step of the way, but I'm going to wait for the right moment, which he did. The whole time they thought he's on their side. And then they let him speak when they came back. And then that was the opportunity, and Kolev said, he said we could do it. We can conquer Israel and so on. So he waited for the right moment. So that's why he didn't need a bracha from Moshe Rabbeinu because he wasn't going to fight with them the whole time. But he went to daven for himself that he shouldn't be influenced by them and so on. That's what he explains. And he waited for the right moment, and that's what he did.
So I saw that says in the Orach Chaim it says ruachhatorahuploads, and he says over in the Orach Chaim that he felt he was being pulled towards him. He was getting nervous about it. Yeah. Yeah. When you say yes to a lot of bad people, eventually become part of them.
Right. That's the danger of that.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why he davened, he said. That's why he davened.
Yeah.
I saw it in this Level Yo of he says that Lapian, he goes a different mahalach, which I think also people have heard this before. What happened to the Meraglim? What happened to them? So according to Chafetz Chaim, that when they saw Eretz Yisrael, they felt to conquer Eretz Yisrael, we have to be big tzaddikim, but we're not ready for this. They felt low about themselves. The Level Yo says, he brings it to Zoya, he says that they were afraid they were going to lose their position. In the Midbar, they were going to see him.
I think this is a short reason.
Yeah, brings it, but he brings it from the Zoya. And he says that they're afraid when they come to Eretz Yisrael, they're going to lose their Yeshivas. They won't be the Nesiim anymore. So there was a problem of gaiva and covid. That was the shur. But he speaks out here, the Lapian. We shouldn't think it was like blatant, simple covid. Like I'm gonna lose my job, and it was very deep in their hearts. Like they didn't realize themselves what they were struggling with. Everything was one of their names. That was Shem Shemayim. They feel this is not a safe place to go. The giants here and this, whatever they thought. But deep down, it was a problem of COVID, he says. And while they were still in the Midbar and they had no problem with their COVID, they were big tzaddikim. But as soon as they set out on the trip and they started thinking, we're going there to Israel, it might not be the same over there, somewhere inside there was an element of COVID. Now, they came back and they said Lashon Hara. So it says, Rashi brings the Chumash that in the end of the previous parasha, that Miriam spoke Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu, who said that what he was, we spoke about this last week, that he said, why was he perished from his wife? He thinks he's such a big, shouldn't be like. We also need to be, and we don't do that. And she was punished. So, and then come Shlach, come the Meraglim. So Rashi brings, they should have learned a lesson from the story of Miriam. That's what the third person went after the other. They should have learned a lesson from what happened to Miriam that you shouldn't say Lashon Hara. So the Level Yo is one of the Bali Musa. He was rebellion of parents about Musa. So he uses this to say it means they didn't learn Musa. They had an opportunity to learn Musa from what happened to Miriam, to learn a lesson, to learn a Musa, and he gets into the whole thing about the importance of learning Musa, he says. And I tell you, it's interesting. To me, it was interesting. When I first came to Lakewood, when I first came in, so then I was at that time the new bacha was called into the mashgiach. So he He called me in. Was right ahead, nope, affair, whatever was writing down paper. What's your name? Who's your chavusas? Then he asked me, do you learn Musar? So it was an L. I said, yeah, I learn Musar. So he asked me, which sefer? So I said, Shari Tshuva. Then he asked me, do you learn Musar be'in or be'spilus? What's that? Yeah, exactly. He said, and he said it fast. Be'in or be'spilus? I didn't know.
It's very hard to understand.
I had no clue what he was talking about. Ian Spilus. Ian, I understood the word Ian means usually Gemara. Some people learn Bekias or some learn Be'ian. Bekias means you learn it quickly, and Ian means you delve into it. So at that choice I heard, if I learned Musa Be'ian, I knew I wasn't doing that. I wasn't learning deep the Muslim. So I couldn't even repeat the other word. I didn't know. I was guessing the other word means like Bekias, Ian or Spilus. So I said in Yiddish, I said, not Ian. I couldn't even say yes to that. I said, not Ian. But then he got excited. He started smiling. He said, where'd you learn how to learn Musa B'Spilus? Where'd you learn that? How to do that? So I knew I had somewhere down on the same page, So I had this, I said, I just read it at the one. I'd get it straight, But in this Rav Eliel Pyan here, when he speaks about Musa, so he speaks about Musa Vespilus. I didn't know about this whole thing, what Musa Vespilus means. So Musa, he says, Musa Vespilus, when he talks about the importance of learning Musa, he says that Rabbi Yisrael Salanta was considered the father of the Muslim movement, sort of in Yeshivas, in Muslim. So he says, we have a secret that was revealed to us by Rabbi Yisrael Salanta, that a person should put aside time to learn Musa B'Spilus, and with a certain tone, like to waken his heart. So he said, and he says, there's a story that we always say over. I'm just repeating. I didn't know the story till in this sefer today. He says there's a story that we had a vad by Yitzchak Blazer. One of the Talmidim of Yisrael Salanta was Yitzchak Blazer, and they learned by him. So he said once we had a Musar vad, like a little meeting, and he practiced with us how to learn Musar. He said this is it, and he started learning Musar. He said with the niggin of learning Gemara. He used the first line of Mesilas Yesharim that beside Chassidus, the foundation of Chassidus and the root of Avodah Tmima, she's bara v'is amis etzel adam, that become clear to a person. My chavasa b'lamid. What is my obligation in this world? What am I doing in this world? That's the first line of Mesilas Yesharim. So he practiced this. He said he started saying these words with the tune that you learn Gemara with. Now we don't have usually tune in Gemara either, but some people learn a little bit with a niggin of the Gemara. So he says, and he said it a few times, and then he said there's various nigunim that people learn when they learn Gemara, and it didn't awaken anything in us. And then he raised his voice, and he started saying the Musar with a well-known Musar niggin. That he said and he started screaming these words, Yesod Chasidus, Sharash Avodah Tmima. And that awakened us, he said. So there's a certain tune. In Lakewood, there used to be a few people that learned Musa B'Spilus. When there was a Musa, this also, I'll tell you a little story. When I first came in, I came in Torvadas. They didn't have any Musa Seder in Torvadas. It's not official Seder for Musa. It's a little bit, Torvadas a little bit like a Siddish and some things that are. In any case, so I came to Lakewood, I didn't know at the end of the first Seder, everybody went out, and they got their jackets and their hats. So I also went out. I wore the jacket and my hat. I came back in. And then they sat down and the mincha was going to be in 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was. So I also sat down and I opened my Gemara and I started learning Gemara. And I said, I'm getting dirty looks. And I couldn't remember what was going on. I'm sitting learning Gemara with my hat and jacket in the base medrash, people looking at me, And then I realized, I found out later, because they were supposed to be learning Musa. I was learning a Gemara. So they were looking at me like, who's this new guy that he comes in, doesn't care what everyone's doing, he just learns Gemara when he's supposed to be learning Musa. But that was a Musa Seder that I found out that I discovered Musa Seder. But some people learn Musa B'Spavis. I mean, you're sitting in a Beis Medrash and people learning Musa, and you hear one or two people with a certain tune. Bispilus. And this Musar Bispilus was the way that a person doesn't just read like I would the words and think about it. They say the words a few times with a certain niggin, and it's a very serious niggin, and this they sort of knock it into themselves. It should penetrate their hearts. That's what their Philosoph did. So he speaks about that here, that the union of learning. So I don't know if we're on that level. So we must be violence with it. Have to go. My father, told me that in his way, he was born in a city in Poland that was a Novardika Yeshiva, and he remembers passing by and hearing a certain tune that he didn't know what it was. So I think it must have been that. They must have learned. The whole yeshiva must be learning. It was a Muslim yeshiva.
Right place right now.
Yeah, we're in Navardik. Yeah, after that. Yeah. So there was a Navardik yeshiva. Someone told me that the disciple learned in that yeshiva for some time. I don't know how long. But Navardik had many branches.
Jack from Polinsky.
Yeah.
Just read.
So, actually, since we're in Navardik, so I'll tell you, Taka, Navardik a Maisa. Okay, there's a Maisa on this. So this first Maisa I heard from Matashel Solomon. When I was in the Kollel in Australia, and the Kollel made a fundraising dinner, and they brought out Rabbi Solomon to be the guest speaker. So he said over like this. He said that there's a Maisa. There was a Nevardika Bacher. In the Nevardika, they were Bali Musa. They also they worked a lot on Betochen. That Hashem can help whatever it is. They do, not do it. So he said there was a mice like this. A Nevardika Bacher came to a certain town. It was in the winter, and he turned up in a shul by himself, and he had no special plan where he's going, what he's doing. It seems maybe he was going to end. I don't know the whole way, but he was in the shul, and then davening was over, Marav was over, and people were going home, and one person noticed that this bacher is still in the base medrash. He's a stranger, and he's still sitting there. It's in this medrash. So he went over to his bacher and he says, whatever your name, where you going? He says, I don't know. Where you staying? I don't know. So he says, well, so he says, I've been talking. So the guy left him there. He said, he looked at him like a crazy guy or something. So he left him, he went home, and he went home for dinner. And then at home, he tells his wife, I met this crazy bacher in the shul. He doesn't know where he's going, doesn't know what he's doing. And I left him there. But he didn't feel good about himself. He said he went back to the shul, and he told his bacher, come to my house. So he took him home, he gave him tea, he gave him a place to sleep. And the next morning he took him back to shul. And his bacher overheard this Baal Bayis saying to his friend, you see that crazy bacher? If not for me, where would his betachim be? He said. That's what it is. So Rabbi Solomon said, these Yungalite that came from America to made a curl in Australia, they have betachim. But if not for you people, where would their betachim be? You got to do your part, That's it. That's it. There's another mice in Vardika had a mice like this. He spoke about once the Vardika was speaking to his Talmidim about betachim. They shouldn't worry, Hashem's going to help. And there was those days they didn't have Ubers, right? They had a balagola. They had the people that with a wagon and the deliveries for whatever it was. And this while he was speaking about betachim, his Talmidim, this wagon driver had come into the base medrash, and he took a seat, and he hears the rabbi speaking about betachim, that you see Hashem, if you learn, Hashem will help you. You see, I think it'll be good. So he took it very much to heart, and he said, you know what? Why am I driving around my wagon? I'm gonna sell my wagon, sell my business. I'm gonna sit and say Tillim or whatever I could learn. That's what this person said. So he came home. He told his wife that I was in the shul, I was in the yeshiva, and I heard this rabbis. This Maisa, and the Vatican said over. This was by the Al Sheikh HaKodesh. The Al Sheikh HaKodesh is going back a couple hundred. Told this Talmidim this, and this wagon driver heard. The Vatican tells the story, but it's about the Al Sheikh. So this man went home and he sold his wagon, his horse and wagon, and he got some money from it. And he started learning and davening, whatever it was. But with a little time, the money was running out. And his wife said that, what's going to be? So he said, I have been talking. I said, I'm going to help. So the mice that happened was that he had sold this horse and wagon to a guy, non-Jew. And this person was transporting a sack of gold coins. And he was going through a forest, and he hit a boulder or something, and he flew off the wagon, and he got killed. The driver got killed, and the horse was there without a driver, and with a wagon and a sack of gold coins. So the horse didn't know what to do, the driver, but he remembered that his old master, where he used to go. He knew the road back to his old master. So he went without a driver. He started driving to his old master's house. This person was sitting in the house and saying Tillim, whatever it was. And then he sees out the window that his horse and wagon is coming. He goes outside. He sees there's no driver. And then he looks in the goods. He found a sack of gold. And he became a wealthy man. The story happened time to Alshach. And the story got back to the yeshiva, and the Bachrim in yeshiva, he came over to Alshach and he said, what's happening here? We're sitting in yeshiva already a few years. Nobody became rich here. This man walked in one day and he became a rich man. So he said that the difference is that Talmidim, the Rebbe says, and maybe the Rebbe knows what he's talking about. He doesn't know what he's talking about. This person took it so to heart. He said he told he had such a strong emunah. So he said he was zeicher to, okay. Yeah, and some non-Vedic stories since we're in the Vedic Yeshiva. I just want to hop around still. In this week's parsha, there's a very nice thing from Moshe Feinstein that I want to share with you. He says that when Kalev came back and he tried to encourage Bnei Yisrael that they could conquer it. So he said the words he said was Ola Nala, we could go up to Eretz Yisrael. So Rashi brings even afilu b'shamayim. If Hashem wanted us, we could even go up to Shemayim. He said. So we would make ladders, and we'd go up to Shemayim. Said. So Moshe Feinstein asked, what's this thing about making ladders? If you want to say we'll go up, but the ladder is not going to get you that far. What do you say? Make ladders. So Moshe Feinstein says, the person wants to achieve something, even if it seems out of his reach, he has to do what he can do to show that he really wants to, and he's trying what he can do. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help him. He said if it's even for mitzvah or for whatever it might be, the person has to do what he's able to do. He says, then he tells it even about Torah. A person wants to know the whole Torah. He says, even though it's impossible, and al yishayish, don't fall into yish, and therefore give up and say I can't learn. But he says a person has to do what he can do, what he's able to do, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives him hatzlacha. He'll end up accomplishing more than he thinks he could do. But he thinks that's the lesson. If Hashem says go up to Shemayim, we'll take a ladder. The ladder's gonna get me up this high, but at least I try. I did what I could do. I got the biggest ladder I could do, and I'm gonna move up. Then Hashem helps. Sometimes you see small things can go very far. Sometimes. Let's say I've had once thoughts about this. Let's say if somebody would have asked years ago, let's say 100, 200 years ago, is it possible for a human being to go to the moon and to come back? Absolutely crazy. Impossible. It's impossible. Maybe an angel could do. A human being could go from this earth to the moon and come back. That's before, let's say it was even before electricity existed. It was known. Impossible. But then one person made the first step. Electricity was discovered. Then the people they flew a little airplane, a little shtickle site. Then someone invented a rocket. And then they did this. And then they did it. Actually did it. No one in the world would have believed it's possible, you know. But it was in steps. It was steps. Even let's say now you all of you well not to be kiddish, have ways. You see, when I was driving, as a young man, I was driving, I had maps. And if someone would have told me, you push a button and they'll tell you where to go and how to get there and where to turn and this that. No matter where you want to go, this that. Right away they'll take. I would have said it's impossible. I still remember when I was I think I was a teenager. I remember the exact year now. They had the World's Fair in Queens, and they had different big companies had exhibits. It was a beautiful thing. It was fascinating. Went a few times. So they had Bell Telephone had a big building where you could see, and they had something there that one day you'll be able to talk on the phone and see the person you're talking to. So wow, they can't talk on the phone and see the person. So there's things that seem impossible, and then it actually happened, right? So things that they go in steps. It doesn't. You can't jump to accomplish. But a person has to try to do what he could do, and either he'll continue it, someone will continue it. There's things can be achieved. Things can be achieved. You can't. Don't play down the small things. The small thing can lead into big things. So a person, Ramesh is saying about his learning, a person, we have a person here, so I could have a good muscle. He had this week to see him. The birth didn't start off right away. They could learn 7 blood a day. Didn't happen right away. I spoke about the scene. The steps at his time. We started Daf Yomi, then he did again Daf Yomi, then he did more, then he saw he could even do that. So that's a person has to try. If a person tries, and there's another shtickle here in last week's parsha about Leiska, in Ramesh also, a little bit of similar thing. We know that by the Korban Pesach, it was a Pesach Sheni. Some people came to Moshe Benu, we were Tomei, and we missed out. Loma Nigara. Why should we miss out? So what did they want? So Rashi brings that they said that the Kohanim that are not Tomei should bring the carbon, and they'll eat the carbon. So he said they can't bring a carbon for people that are Tomei. So what does it mean that they kind of adore it? Some want to say it means they'll bring it to themselves and we'll be included with them and they'll eat it. So he says, so where's the mitzvah? He says, where they have the mitzvah? See, where Moshe Flange wants to say a very beautiful thing. He said they knew that they can't do this mitzvah. But even so, they wanted some connection to this mitzvah. Let the Kohanim do it, the Kohanim that are Torah, and they'll eat it, and we won't even get the mitzvah. But they'll include us, they'll think about us, they'll be part, whatever we could do, part of it. So he says, he said like this, Mizeh yesh l'melech, Ramesh Feinstein says we can learn from this that mitzvah. Some person might have a difficulty; it's impossible for him to do a certain mitzvah. But because he loves the mitzvah, he would love to do it. He should do whatever he could do, even in this. But he gives mishalom now. Let's say a person, for medical reasons, he can't eat maror. It's us of him to eat maror. The doctors say he can't eat maror, so he's part of eating maror. But he says, if he can, let's say allow him to have a taste, a slight taste. So let's say he takes a slight taste. Will he get a mitzvah? No, it's not a share. Where Moshe Feinstein says he should do it. You're not getting a mitzvah, but you're showing that this is what I could do. I want to do whatever I could do. I want to have part of the mitzvah. He says, someone that can't sit in a sukkah for whatever reason, at least he should try to build a sukkah. Be part of it. What do you get out of that? You're not getting the mitzvah, he said. But it shows that you love the mitzvah and you want it, but it's not enough I wish I could do it. Do something. That's what Moshe is saying. And that's what he was saying, that's the shot in that story with the Korban Pesach. They originally didn't know that there's going to be a Pesach Sheni. But why can't we have some connection to it? Not some connection to it. It's like I think there's also maybe in the Gemara says there was one Amoraim, he couldn't learn, So let me at least sit by the door of the base medrash, something that people go to. Maybe I'll stand up for them to come in and out.
Yeah, he was too on see.
Couldn't learn.
Side.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if I can't do the mitzvah, let me some kind of connection, have to the mitzvah. So this is sort of to put together different things here. I had actually one last Maramakim. I think once mentioned this also. Let's say we daven, let's say for Eretz Yisrael now. There's a war going on, who knows what. So a person could say, what is my tefillah going to make a difference? If I say it, tell him, I don't say it, tell him, but I have it in mind, Shemona Esrei. So there's a similar thing about, Mr. Sherm speaks about this, about davening for even when there's no war, we want to daven, we should get back to Beis Hamikdash, we should have the Mashiach should come. So he says like this, in Yom Adam, it's a military test, the person will say, Mi ani, who am I? Omani Sofran, what is my Yeshivas? Shespal al Golas vel Shleim. I'm going to get up and daven. Hashem, it's enough Golas. We want to go back to Shleim. What am I going to make a difference? I'm at Nate to Lassi. Because of my tefillah, Hashem will bring the Golas back. And that's why Yeshua. So he says, Shuvasei B'tzilei. The answer is, like it says in Sanhedrin, the Fikach Nivra Adam Yechidi. Why did Hashem begin the world with just one human being, with Adam Rishon? You know this Gemara, Kadesh Shekol Echad Yoimar V'Shvili Nivra Olam. A person has to. This is a Tyson when we said in the beginning with Chafetz Chaim. The HaTorah wants to put us down, to feel we're nothing. We're not chasher. Our mitzvah, our learning is not chasher, whatever it is. But he's telling us here that Hashem is trying to tell us each person is chasher by the Rebbeinu Shalom. Hashem, each person should feel that he's B'shvil Nivra Olam. And he says, Kvar nachas ruach hu lefanav yizbarach. Hashem has a nachas, that is when his children ask for this. And even if Hashem doesn't fulfill his bakasha, for whatever reason Hashem has, it's not the right time, whatever it might be, but you've done yours. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu sameach b'zeh. He says, Hashem, you made Hashem happy that you daven. So he's teaching us that we have to understand our own cheshivas. Each of us has to understand our own cheshivas. Our davening is important, our learning is important, our mitzvahs are important. And even though other people, bigger tzaddikim, this, that, doesn't matter. Each person is important. And whatever person does is important. And small things lead to big things. And that's a person should feel. And the Rosh is saying this, even you can't do the whole mitzvah, part of mitzvah. The small things are also very important to do. And now we're coming to Ben Azmanim. Also, there's no Yeshivas after. I found that this coming Tuesday is the last official date of the Yeshiva. And the big long Ben Azmanim. So a person should try to find an eitzes to be able to mamshech his learning, his davening, so not to lose his cheshik, and to whatever he could do. And if he can't learn the whole day, at least some part of the day. We're talking about, some days. Everyone should have a kriyas or some rechavus or whatever he could do to learn or attend a shir and the daven. And it's Hashem, that Hashem will listen to our tefillas. And we should have Eretz Yisrael in mind, and we should only hear good things, Be'ez Hashem.